So I think that that's part of the work that I help people in, is like trying to see that particular medicine that's calling to them. And I always believe there's something. I just don't think we've come here to just like be lost our whole lives. I think there's something guiding us.
Hello, and welcome to the Connect podcast. This show is all about helping you connect to your soul's calling so you can take action on it. Because the sweetest success is a blend of discovering your purpose with the inner drive to bring it to life. I'm Sheila Botello, health coach, lifestyle entrepreneur, and mom of two, best known for my online wellness programs, mentoring, and self-love passion. Listen in for inspiring interviews, solo chats, and Q&A sessions that will move you past overwhelm towards what lights you up. Stop accepting good enough and go for your version of great in your health, business, and relationships. Let's get started. Hey there, welcome back. I have a deep respect for and have learned so much from today's guest since meeting her. I'm so grateful for the insightful conversation we're sharing with you today. Asha Frost is an Indigenous medicine woman, author, and founder of Sacred Membership, a global online medicine circle community. She has served thousands of people for the last 2 decades in her work as a native healer, homeopath, teacher, and leader, and has studied with many shaman, medicine people, elders, and guides. Impacted by intergenerational trauma, colonization, and oppression, Asha has worked hard to reclaim and remember her roots and medicine teachings. She is specialized in helping people heal through illness, mental and emotional disorders, and ancestral reconnection. Through this work, she has loved seeing people find their own healing wisdom, presence, and power. Her upcoming book, You Are the Medicine, will be published by Hay House and comes out in 2022. In this episode, we talked about how to stay connected with our words and intentions, an important post she wrote on Instagram that went viral, what prompted it, and what happened afterwards. What it's been like leading people through healing work online over the last 1.5 years. And during this time of uncertainty for so many people, Asha provides some guidance for those who have fulfilled one phase of their purpose and don't know what's next. May you find yourself more deeply rooted and connected to who you are after listening. Enjoy the conversation. Asha, welcome to the podcast. I am so happy that you're here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Your Instagram feed, your website, everything is so beautiful. The colors, the areas where you're photographed are really beautiful. And what I particularly loved was the shirt you were wearing in one of them, Indigenous Boss Babe. I just love it. It's so cool. And in the intro, people will have heard who you are, what your background is, and what your work is. Many of the images you post are around water, or even you're standing in water. And is there a significance to this? And what is that?
Yeah, water to me is such medicine. Water is, I just feel like it's the place I go if I need purification and cleansing. And the First Nation where my ancestors are from is surrounded by water. The names actually has water in it because it's just this beautiful space that's surrounded by water. So I think it's part of my lineage and my blood and bones that I'm always surrounded by water. So yeah, it's one of those places that just takes me home to myself.
And so tell me about your tribe and the location where your ancestors mainly inhabited.
So my ancestors are all from Ontario, actually, First Nations across Ontario, whether it's my grandparents, my parents, or my great-grandparents or great-great-grandparents, they're all sort of spread across Ontario and different First Nations. The one that I have membership to is called Cape Croker and Neashingagaming, and that is my mother's lineage. My father's lineage is from Serpent River, which is up a little bit north, and but I'm connected more to the First Nation that my mother is part of.
One thing I love about yourself and some other Indigenous friends who I've come into contact with over the years is their understanding of their lineage, that they know where they came from in many cases. Unfortunately, it's not true in some cases also, based on our new uncovering of things that have happened historically to our Indigenous brothers and sisters. It's sad to see that many don't know their past, but many I've talked to do. But having these thoughts, having an understanding of where we come from and our roots is beautiful. And now in this time where many things are coming to light, it can be very traumatizing for people to know that perhaps people in their past have been part of a really unwelcoming, inhumane experience. With your background as an Indigenous medicine woman who has served thousands of people for the past 2 decades in your work, you're working as a native healer, homeopath, and teacher, and you've had to work to heal yourself. Describe what that's been like for you.
So I think ultimately my journey started with healing myself. And I was diagnosed with lupus when I was 17. And it just put me on this journey of, coming back to who I am because, autoimmune conditions I can see from an energetic standpoint is kind of like a disconnect from your truth or a disconnect from that identity. That was true for me at least. And I could just see how it really was about me trying to kind of assimilate and push away those parts that weren't seen as good. There was a lot of racism. I grew up north of Toronto, but there was a lot of racism around Indigenous people and microaggressions and things that were said that just as a child didn't feel like it was a good thing to be Indigenous. So it's been a journey of healing. And I think, and uncovering and committing to my own healing, that's where I found the medicine. That's where I found the medicine in experience. I always feel like our experiences teach us so much. We can read all the books, take all the courses, but that experiential learning is really rooted inside of us because once you go through something, then it turns into wisdom. So ever since that time, I feel like the wisdom started growing and blossoming and just like kind of flourishing within me. And then it became medicine to share with others. And then it just became part of my path to see, well, how could I hold space for that for other people in their lives? It just unfolded kind of effortlessly, to be honest.
So beautiful. I'm wondering what kind of experience have you, if you could think of some of the people that you've worked with, what kind of experiences have you walked people through in terms of their own healing? If you can think of one or two stories that you could share.
I would say it's always, we kind of teach what we need to heal ourselves. So it would always be like a younger version of myself that I would see. So things that I truly feel like I could help them with. So speaking your truth, standing your boundaries, standing your ground, I'd say was like a big thing, finding healing through relationships, I think. And also that identity piece, like really, I think because I was trying to find myself, that piece is really huge. And just knowing that you're part of that divine creation, coming home to that self-worth, it's really important.
Oh, and that is something that I find is definitely trending now is people working on their own self-worth and building confidence and self-love in spite of what is going on and where they're at in their life, just loving themselves for who they are right now in the moment. What type of age groups do you find you work with?
Yeah, it's different now. I'd say when I had a private practice, I had that for 17 years. I worked with, it went from babies because I was a homeopath, so I saw a lot of children, to probably folks in their 60s. It was really a big range. Now in my community, I tend to serve mostly women, and I'd say they're from early 30s to mid 50s.
It's amazing how it doesn't matter what age we are, we can really make an impact once we start unlayering the things that have been holding us back. And once we understand really what the root of it has been.
Mhm.
And often, do you find people are going really quite far back in their life to come through that work?
Yes, a lot of the work that I do, I do a lot of journeying. So it'd be like either shamanic journeying or sort of like a meditative journey, often calling back pieces and parts. And I always like to sort of see them, or the way that they present themselves to me are like aspects of ourselves that we either disconnected from, that split apart from, that just need to be kind of reclaimed truly, because we are whole. We're never broken, and we're never. I think it's just like a remembering that we're whole, and sometimes we just need to remind that child self that that was really painful and traumatic, but there's still a piece there that maybe just needs to be seen and acknowledged. We can gently bring it back and then feel that wholeness again. So that tends to be how people experience my work and how they call those pieces back.
Ooh, and as you say that, we are whole and we are not lacking in anything, and it's a remembering. And so you're a mom of two boys. I'm a mom of two boys. And as moms, we're doing our best to hopefully not repeat patterns from our past. what is some advice you can give to parents in helping their children so that they're not having to remember as much because they're going to have that inner knowledge of their wholeness from the start?
I think it's probably treating them as whole, treating them as human beings and not as like, not that hierarchy of you're the parent and they're the child and you know more than them. I like to share that I believe my children are my elders too, that they teach me so much and they've come through many lifetimes of knowing. So I try to see them as whole people and beings and not to, I think that some of the parenting energies or wounding that came through my lineage with residential schools was that the adult was like the kind of the oppressor, the punisher, and like children had to listen and listen and do what they were told. And I just don't believe that. And I try to do my best. I'm not perfect, but I try to do my best in treating my children as whole beings and that they carry a lot of wisdom too.
So beautiful. And I find with my boys, when I hear them share their thoughts, there is a wisdom there that's untarnished from the lives that we've experienced, from the global perspective, perhaps the, societal experience that we've all shared out in the world. And there is a beauty to that and a simplicity in really what our lives are about. In the women that you're leading and guiding, they're probably passing this on to their families as well. So it's really the work you do touches one and then touches many. So I'm really grateful for it. In following you and listening to you and connecting with your message, I've found it to be very grounding and refreshing. And I feel just so much peace when I'm hearing you share, particularly if you've been doing some kind of guided meditation or leading a circle. Those times where you're deep in the work, if you can just tell it's meant to be for you. And I find that's when we can really get open. You're being so authentic to you, and it helps bring out the authenticity in others. And so obviously your kids too.
That's a really nice reflection. Thank you so much. I feels like it's been, I don't want to say hard work to get here, but it's just been work. I mean, I'm just very committed to my healing path. Even if everything else fell away, that would never fall away. I feel like I'm here to heal myself. And then as I do that, then everything kind of just flows out of my energy in that way. So I do believe if we do that healing work, then it does touch our ancestors, a lineage behind and forward. And we bless so many in our paths by doing that work, which is something that I just never want to stop doing.
I love that. The self-care that I love to talk about is really soul care. It is the place to begin, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And so here you are, you've been doing your healing work. It probably is going to be a lifelong journey. And then you're walking with people along their own healing journey. You're also helping other people come into the space of becoming healers as well. And in doing all that, you would think, yay, this is, you're in your purpose, let's go. And then there's opposition that comes up sometimes. And the way this showed up for you, it's shown up through your life, as you've mentioned before, watching the cultural appropriation of people and brands who are wanting to kind of get in on the niche of this type of work. And it can be very harmful. Cultural appropriation can be even more wounding to someone who's lived through the culture that someone's trying to appropriate. And so you wrote a piece about cultural appropriation, and you shared a point of view that many white women have never really considered when they've attempted to live in a more soulful way. So if it's okay, if you could read us the piece that you have posted on Instagram about Dear White Woman.
I could read it. Let me just get it 1 second.
Yeah.
There it is. Okay.
Lovely.
Dear white woman who wants to be like me, I get it. You see the moccasins and the beaded earrings, the cheekbones and the drum, the smudge bowl and the feathers. It all looks so exotic, something that you want to be a part of, something you want to consume. And you think that maybe if you borrow a few of these things, you too can connect to the earth more deeply, to the ancestral wisdom, to the spirit world. I've heard it time and time again. I wish I was you. I would love to be native. You're so lucky. I was native in a past life. I really want a status card. I think I have native blood. Can you tell me how to get one? Again and again, I've heard these things from you, and my heart pains, and my throat closes, and my tears get swallowed. Do you really know what you're saying? Do you really know what you're asking for? I love my heritage. I am proud of who I am. Even when I wear my beaded earrings and people whisper up behind my back asking, who does she think she is? Even when I wear my mucklucks and teenagers shout Indian calls at me. Even when I'm discriminated against when I enter the hospital. I love who I am. I'm a proud Anishinaabe Ojibwe woman. And it's taken me 42 years to get here. So, dear white woman, I want to ask you this. I know that you would take on the dream catchers and the powwows. I know that you would take on the headdress and the sage. I know that you would take on the wisdom and the beauty. But do you want the rest of it? Truly? Would you like to experience people asking to collaborate with you so they can receive grants for their work? Would you like to be seen and treated as less than when you have pneumonia and are in desperate need of hospital care? Asked by medical professionals how much alcohol you've had to drink when all you need is medicine? Would you like to have big dreams and wonder every single day whether you will ever be seen and honored the way people with lighter skin are? Would you like to feel physically ill every time you read the comment section and you see the horrible views society has about your people? Would you like to shake violently afterwards and wonder if you and your children are safe in this world? Would you take on a painful chronic illness and later wonder if part of the reason you have it is due to the oppression and pain your people have experienced? Would you take all of this on too? I look around at a world that has reduced me to a costume, a world that has romanticized me into a character, a world that takes the teachings of my people and uses them without any acknowledgement or an invitation for us to join them on their stage. This is the world we live in. And so, dear white woman who wants to be like me, are you willing to take on all of it or just the pretty parts? Are you willing to take on the trauma or just the wisdom? Are you willing to deal with the intergenerational trauma of the residential schools and the alcohol and the suicide and the violence and the genocide? Are you willing to carry all of that in your cells, your blood, and your tissue? Willing to do the work every single day to heal this so you can make sure your children don't have to carry it? Dear white woman who wants to be like me, do you? Or can you be like you and reconnect to your own sacred medicines, your own beautiful ancestry, your own power, presence, and brilliance? I see you wanting to. I see you aspiring to. I see you reconnecting. Can you be like you as I reclaim and remember me? And then we can finally walk in right relation to each other. Miigwech.
Mm. That was powerful. What was your experience after you had written it, prior to posting it? And then what has happened since writing it?
So writing it, it's so funny. I just did a podcast episode today with the same question. So I've had time. So writing it, I did not think it was going to go viral. I wrote it because it was something that had been on my heart and in my soul for probably at least 10 years. And it was actually a friend who said, you've called me when you've been shaking. I've heard you all of these times when it's been traumatic for you to experience these things. And she encouraged me to write it as a letter. So I thought, I've been so kind of terrified to share this, but I knew I had to do it for my healing. So that's what I felt before, terrified. Terrified of pressing send. And not that I knew it was going to go viral, but even if one person read it, and I just was terrified to share that truth, I think. So that happened. It went viral. I got a lot of response and it was hard. That's the truth of it. It was hard. Like nobody really tells you about what happens when something goes viral that's really personal to you and that's really controversial. I believe that I wrote it still with my essence of love and compassion and understanding. But of course, that's not how it landed for many people. So that was really tough. It was hard to get the backlash. I went into a trauma response around opening my email until about now. It took me about a year to feel brave enough to open it and see what's there. My Facebook messages, my DMs blew up, my Instagram messages. It took me a long time to feel safe enough to go back into those spaces because I didn't know what was at the other end. Either it would be something like, this really spoke to me, I learned so much, or I'm really angry at you, and a lot of defensiveness and a lot of white fragility. So yeah, it was big. It was big and it was beautiful because it really did get my message and my medicine out in the world in a bigger way. So I can see that now, but I do want to share, I want to share those parts because I want to be real that, sometimes growth can be challenging. Even, sometimes we all think we want this big platform. If you're in the Instagram online world, we think we want this. And yes, it's beautiful. It can come with some challenges along the way. So I always want to share that aspect to just make it real.
Absolutely. I remember reading it. I felt two responses simultaneously. The first one was, yes, I'm so glad that she wrote this. And simultaneously, the pain of knowing that, wow, so many of us have no idea. And so like a sadness of, wow, you had to experience that. And I imagine that that's what's been going on also this year, 2020, with a lot of the social awakening, racial awakening that has been coming along for people who've just not been in amidst different cultures and with that understanding. And being Canadian, it's very easy for a Canadian to get defensive about, whoa, but I'm not like everyone else. We live in this amazing country. And yet I home educate my kids. And so I work very closely on the curriculum with them. And I see in the past several years, more information, particularly being taught now about the residential schools that was completely shielded from all of us. And I remember feeling horrified, my kids feeling horrified that this happened and it didn't even end that long ago. And so diving into the stories and then hearing you speak so vulnerably about your experience, it makes me want to raise awareness about it. It makes my kids want to be different. And I feel that if there's one thing that we can do as parents, it is to fully educate and have these tough discussions so that they are a positive change in the world. They can hopefully do differently. It's really informed on our conversation and the words that we use, and it helps us rethink almost every single thing. Like there is this term that I keep hearing, even now, which is interesting, in the personal development world about going for your goals and like you're gotta burn the boats and leave no way of going back. And I thought, wow, that's such a colonizing term. Like I wouldn't want anything to do with that term because of what it can bring up for people. And so it's open that your piece and this whole discussion has really opened a dialogue that once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. Hopefully we will move forward in a different way. I'm glad that you followed your instinct and that your friend encouraged you to write that letter.
Thank you.
Of the people that gave you a positive response, what are some transformations you've seen with them? What ways are they wanting to support your work or speak out themselves?
I'd say that my voice got uplifted probably. So I got on some podcasts, and people wanted to discuss some of these things. So that was really, really beautiful. I will be really honest in that it was a little bit tough. This came out last year. And then with the whole Black Lives Matter movement that happened this summer, it seemed like there was sort of like oh my goodness, we all have to change now. And I was sort of just like, I've been speaking about these things for a while. Why now? So that can be a little bit harmful too. And then wondering if it's going to continue. So I can't say that I have seen like huge changes yet of people committing to that. I mean, there are, but it's almost like I need more time to kind of see how that's going to come down. And it is still hard to wonder if being asked for some of these things, is it like am I a token? Are they looking to add more women of color on their panels or their offerings, etc.? So I think I'm still navigating that and trying to figure that out, which is a sad thing. And even in business, thinking sometimes I do wonder if I was a white woman, how would that be? Like, I could just, in making money and doing these things, like nobody would challenge me, because there's also ideas from the Indigenous community about how I'm doing what I'm doing. And people not happy about that. So sometimes I walk this line of just like, how do I walk this line in authenticity in the middle as a bridge? And it can be challenging. So I'm still looking for a way through that to walk it maybe more effortlessly, or maybe with more ease and grace, which would be really nice.
You present that you are doing it very elegantly, and with the understanding that there's always going to be haters,
Yeah.
and there's no perfect way other than to be perfectly you.
Yeah.
That's your essence.
Yeah.
So now, as we look at the world with being more virtual and even more connected online, you had moved your practice and your healing circles from in person all the time to online. And you did that several years ago.
Last January. So it's been almost, a little bit over 18 months.
That's kind of neat timing based on the time we're in right now, right? You were already practiced. What has been the difference for you going through this healing journey with people now virtually instead of face to face? I've heard you say before that because you're taking on so much of other people and their energy and what's happening, it could really drain you. You would find yourself getting ill because you're an empath and it's your work, that it actually can consume you. Do you feel like it is easier to disengage and to have a more healthy container for yourself working online with people?
I think it is quite different. The biggest difference I would say is doing a healing circle, because usually it would be like 30 people in a room. And then I would say, okay, the container is closed. And then, everybody would come up. So then like, that's just like, after you expend all this energy, then there's just more energy expended as people, anybody who runs a workshop knows that kind of energy. And it was really huge to just all of a sudden be like, closed space, press end, and then we're done. And that was like a whole new energetic container for me, where I could just take some time and not have that continuation, I guess. So that was really beautiful. I have to say, when COVID hit, I started to really miss doing in-person gatherings and even one-on-one work. I do see now, looking back in retrospect, my child was only, he was like not yet one when I decided to kind of really step away. I started doing online work before I got pregnant with him. So it just was like a slow start, a slow trickle in. And he was just really young, and I just could not hold space to having two children, plus a private practice, and just offering all of that. So now I'm looking for a way to find a balance. I think I needed to kind of go completely away from that, do some online work, but I'm starting to miss it again. So
Yeah.
it is different, I think. I could never go back to seeing 16 people a week doing one-on-one healings. I just don't think that I have the capacity for that. And I probably didn't back then, but I wasn't listening to myself. So now it's just how to find that balance, which I think we're all trying to find in our life's work, because some of the most joyful work is in person for me, but I needed a break.
Yeah. Give me an example of what is the structure of a healing circle? Is it super structured, or is it more you're going with a sense that you get from the participants?
Yeah, I love that question. So I've done so many of them now. When I first started, I had everything written out, right? Even like the journey that I would take them on. I'd have like a part 1, part 2, part 3, and just like have it really, I did that for probably a year or so until I started getting into the energy of who's showing up. And now I can feel their guides coming forward and informing me and working together. I do have a structure in that, I have an idea of the essence and energy, because the circle is either like a full moon, new moon, or equinox or solstice energy. So there is something guiding that, right? So there's like an overall arching theme. And then there'll be some sort of energetic exercise I want to take them through. So that part's planned. But the actual journeys, they're all sort of just channeled. And I feel like we're co-creating it. But now it's sort of like it's kind of finely tuned to just like, this is how it happens. And I trust now that spirit always shows up for me.
Mm, yeah. I think if we really tune in and if we really get grounded in ourselves and we're truly seeking, I feel like spirit can show up for us. It can feel easy for people that the spirit has abandoned them because life can feel so hard. Do you feel like people are just too busy and too disconnected from themselves that they're just not hearing what is already there that's never fully left?
Yeah. And sometimes I think too, we're so in our minds. Like, I just think, I don't, I think we can forget to be that, have that embodiment, right? Whether it's like in your physical body, like doing activity or moving or some somatic therapy, or just, I just think we're so in our minds in society that we just get disconnected. And when we're in our minds too much, then we're out of our hearts. And then we're also out of our spirit connection. So that's really a disconnect, I think, to be busy in our minds. And that's something I see with a lot of people.
Absolutely. So I want to ask you, what do you say to people who have been working towards fulfilling their purpose? They feel like they've achieved an intention, but now they don't know what's next. What is your guidance for them?
Hmm. That's really, I feel like a lot of folks come to me and say, I feel lost. And that's always interesting to me because I think, again, I believe there's always a pulse of something calling you to something. So even in your lostness, what is that telling you? Can you sink into that? Like, I feel like I don't have a direction. Okay, what's there for you, in that state? Because I think we want to leap out so fast and not be in that. And I really see things in terms of cycles. I really see, like, in my membership, we talk about the medicine wheel, and that would be like in the buffalo phase, you're doing like death and letting go and like crumbling away parts of you that don't align anymore. And then you have to rest. So then the rest might feel like that unknown and that like the great mystery is working through you, but you don't know quite what's happening. So I would say to them, maybe you're in bear, maybe you just had to like let things die in buffalo and you're resting. What if you just sat there for a while? What if you truly did and just like let that, I mean, maybe not for like 10 years, but what if that cycle is just there for you and you use it as medicine and then something is reborn from that phase? And that's what I tend to see in a lot of people. And then we move into eagle where we have our ideas and we're cultivating that, we're spreading our wings. So I think that that's part of the work that I help people in, is like trying to see that particular medicine that's calling to them. And I always believe there's something. I just don't think we've come here to just like be lost our whole lives. I think there's something guiding us.
I believe that too. I definitely do. And so now here you are, after having recently been offered a book deal. And I'm so excited about your book. And I would love for you, well, first of all, are you equal parts excited and freaked out?
I think that we're at the point where my eldest is about to go back to school, and I just feel like that's going to be just some space, right, for me to write. So I'm excited.
Yes.
I am probably kind of, it's not coming out to 2022. So ask me in January 2022 how I'm feeling before it launches, because that part what freaks me out. But actually writing it, I'm excited to get down and really, really get through that process and do that, because that feels exciting to me. So yeah, I'm excited.
Oh, it's great. And so it's going to be called You Are the Medicine, and it will be published by Hay House, coming out in 2022, as you said. And I'm wondering if you can share just a final thought right now about having courage to step into something new.
Mm. Yeah, that's a beautiful question. I think I always just feel like, what do I want to do with, that with that one precious life? What, like, we are here, we have this one precious life. And I think something that having a chronic illness has taught me is we don't have all the time in the world. Having a chronic illness has had me think about like death a lot. So I guess I just feel like that courage comes from this fire within that says like, it's not forever here, this lifetime. You have next lifetime and do that, but like take that leap. And I don't know. I see a lot of eagle medicine around, just saying like spirit's there to help you and support you. Ask for help from your ancestors. They're guiding you, and they dream this for you. So how can you walk their vision?
Oh, that's so beautiful. I think of my grandmother who has passed away a number of years ago, my mother who passed away a few years ago. What would they say to me now? That just gives me shivers. And we also imagine as moms, we see, well, what would we want for our kids? We can want so much more for them than what we would ever seek for ourselves. And yet we can also go after those things. We don't need to hold ourselves back, and we don't have to do it alone. We have each other and we have spirit to guide the way.
Yeah.
So thank you for that reminder and for the work that you do. I am going to be linking a whole bunch of things in the show notes to your membership, to the offerings you have. And if you have, I believe you also have something that does talk about the medicine wheel. I'd love to link that also for people who that's new to. And is there anything specific you'd love to share with us that is coming up next that people can become a part of?
Well, really, my membership is the space to be right now before my book comes out, because that's the place where I am investing most of my energy into. So I will have a mentorship coming up, another healer mentorship coming up probably in the winter. The first one is sold out. So that would be something if somebody is looking to really expand on their medicine gifts.
Excellent. I'll make sure to share that. And so everybody can follow you at ashafrost.com and on Instagram.
Asha.Frost.
Wonderful. Well, I'll make sure to link that. And everyone, please go follow Asha and share this beautiful message of healing and ancestral healing with the people that we connect with. It's a gift, truly. And it's been a beautiful gift having you here today. Thank you so much for making the time in your busy schedule.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much for being here with me on the Connect podcast. If you like this episode, please share it with someone you think would enjoy it. Also, if you head over to iTunes to leave a review, I'd be so grateful. Let us know what your favorite parts were and what you'd like to hear more of. It will help us have a greater impact, elevating many more people to grow and succeed together. See you next time.